welcome to Books Are Good Medicine. This podcast is sponsored by the Shakopee, Mdewakanton, Sioux community and explores books and other Native American-focused teaching resources. We are your hosts, Allison Waukau
and Odia Wood-Krueger. We have a great episode today, the top books about the Native American experience that we recommend for elementary students. Hope you enjoy.
Hi, Odia.
Hi, Allison. It's great to be back here with you talking about books.
Yeah, you too.
And it was so funny when we came up with this idea. We were like, oh, we're going to come up with the 10 books that every library needs to have. And then reality set in. And clearly, you and I have a problem that we just can't pick 10.
Yeah. At first, I thought it was 10 each. And then... But we're well over that. But that's okay. That's okay.
You know, having to choose 10 is kind of hard. I actually, I'll tell listeners that I rolled in with a suitcase and had a whole bunch.
You were very smart to bring wheels. Yes.
And so you just never know what conversation's going to come out. So I want to be prepared. So I would love if you would kick us off with a selection from your pile and tell us a little bit about it and why.
All right.
Why it's worthy of making this list.
Okay. I think, well, in our selection for the American Indian Youth Literature Awards, we this came in the mail, and it's, well, maybe this is TMI, but I dated a man from Taos Pueblo for a time. Really great guy. And his parents were amazing. And I did spend a lot of time in Taos for feast days and so forth. And it's really...
Is he single? Like, do we need to put a plug in?
No, he's been married for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
sorry to his wife. Sorry to his significant other.
But I love Taos. It's so beautiful. And I was really, really lucky to spend some time there. But this series of books is called Taos Pueblo in the summer, fall, spring, and winter. And it's just beautiful. It has no words. So it's a series of books that don't have, what I like is the authors and the illustrator of each book are from Taos, which I think is really important when you are selecting books to look to see if the author is in fact from the tribe it's writing about. And if not, maybe that's a whole nother podcast recording, but I think it's really important to when you're looking at books, like where is the author from and where are they writing about? So it's board books. So, and they're bigger board books. So they're a little more durable, nice to have in the library. And I just think they're just so beautiful. And one of the things that has come up with me over the years is some parents will say, well, my kid isn't reading. And I said, well, can they tell you what's happening in the picture? That is reading. That is storytelling. And I think people get so focused on the words and the letters and that sort of thing. And kids are reading at a very young age, as long as they can tell you or make up their own stories. And so this is a great set of books that can have kids make up their own stories. And it's just really beautiful and gives a really good insight to the Pueblo tribes and communities that are down in New Mexico. So I love these ones.
Because I know your stack. I want to actually kick it back to you again because you have a second recommendation that uses no words at all.
Yes.
And I wonder if you want to just back to back that one because I think you're on a roll talking about the no words. And I love this one, too. And because it was on your list, I didn't add it to mine.
Well, okay. Yeah. So it's a little personal just because it is a Navajo book, Horizon. And it's just, again, kind of with the Southwest theme, too, I think. But it doesn't have any words. And it's just about this young girl. I really like the part where she flies with her scarf. And if anybody knows Indian grandmas, they always tend to have a scarf. And it's just really, it's a cute book. I feel like superhero kind of vibes from it. But Daniel, the author, is a really great guy too. And that always makes a book better too, I think, when the authors are good folks. And so I really like this one.
I liked it because it was like the scarf was the mechanism to do all of these things. Right. And you could be anything you wanted with the magic of this scarf.
Yes.
And it's this beautiful, like the balloon on the front. You see like this Cookham's scarf, this floral. So it's bright. And if you've been in, the desert Southwest, right? A lot of people are like, oh, it's dead. There's nothing happening. And once you're there, you realize that there's so much beauty and color and excitement. And so it's a beautiful one. And I love how it empowers young women as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great selection.
So tell me about one of your books there, Odia, on your stack.
So I have a whole ton of them. And let me see, what am I going to choose? So it was funny. This, The Secret Pocket. So one of the things I tend to do is I pick a ton of Canadian books.
Yes.
If people don't know that about me, they are going to learn very quickly. So this particular book, Secret Pocket, funny enough, when we hosted Monique Gray-Smith through the Understand Native Minnesota campaign, she recommended this book. And I didn't know. She was like, oh, it showed up in my mailbox. And she read the last little bit about it, and I loved it. And she said, we were geniuses. We are geniuses. We will always be geniuses. Yeah. And I love how that closes. But there are so many books about boarding schools, and I'm always careful to recommend residential or boarding school stories because they can be really traumatic. Mm-hmm. I love this one because there is this autonomy where someone who's in boarding school realizes like, oh, I learned how to sew as a young person. And she found fabric and made these little pockets in her voluminous skirts so she could hide food in order to care for younger children who were essentially being starved at the boarding school. And it goes on to talk about how adults who are graduating from university, on their stole, they put a little secret pocket in the stole with the story. And so it's a true story, and I love that. And even though there's sadness in there and it makes us really upset, there's this beautiful story of resilience and empowering people. And I just love it. Absolutely love it. So,
and it's a topic that needs to be talked about.
You bet.
So it is a good book for early grades to start the conversation, and it's something that I think touches all Native lives.
I do have another boarding school one, and when I was at Minneapolis Public Schools, I used this book all the time because I loved it, and that is When I Was 8.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you know this one.
No.
So When I Was 8, so Christy Jordan Fenton is the primary author, and she's the daughter-in-law of Margaret Pokiak Fenton, who is Oliman, who is the person whose story this is.
Oh, okay.
So she, as a non-native daughter-in-law, helped her mother-in-law write this story. And so this is the first in a series. And then the second book is called Not My Girl. Yes. And so you already know where this is going kind of thing, but it's a 2-part. And then why we use this one a lot is there is like a chapter book that tells the same story, but you can use it for differentiation. So it takes place in the Canadian North, and love it. Absolutely love it. Margaret has since walked on, but just another strong, empowered woman who had to go through some really awful, terrible things in residential school, but such a great story that I would love for everyone to have.
Well, here's a question. So how do you see it tying into boarding schools here in the U.S. then, as far as because that question is, what what would the difference be, or how is it okay for folks here in the U.S. to read about residential schools compared to boarding schools here?
So I wrote a lesson plan. So there's a video called, it's about boarding schools, and it's a mini documentary by Retro Report, and we can put the link in the chat below. But I love to use picture books to talk about really hard topics. And I know oftentimes for high school, people are like, picture books, why do you want to do that? But I feel like picture books are a very good vehicle for talking about challenging topics. And especially with boarding schools, I always say I want to bring people in safely and bring them back out safely, because even if you're a non-native person, they can be really traumatic for you, and you feel a lot of guilt and, oh my gosh, why did this happen? And I love that these are own voices books. These are written by the people who had that experience, and that's really important. So they're not books written about Native people, and their experience are written by the people who had the experience. And so for me, when in that Retro Report lesson plan, I focus on the policies. What were the policies around residential schools or boarding schools? Right. What were the policies that allowed or were forcing assimilation, and really sort of look at it from that view rather than was it right or was it wrong? Because I think we can all agree that it was extremely wrong. Right. And that we're not there to pass an opinion about the legitimacy of the boarding school, but what were the policies, and then what are the revitalization policies that came out of that, like the Esther Martinez Language Act, and all of these things that have allowed people to begin to reclaim their cultures and languages.
I like that you're talking about picture books in high school, because that was one of the things that we were kind of struggling with, like 10 books. And I could not narrow it down, including middle school and high school. But I really like that. I think all kids like to be read to. Like, that's pretty much across the board, no matter the age. They may say they don't like it, but or they're too old, but it really is. One of the things that I did when I was substitute teaching was turn the lights off and read a picture book, and then show them the pictures, and then see, did it compare? How does it compare to what they were thinking, envisioning in their mind? And like, that's always fun. I think it's always great to have picture books in high school, and don't get so caught up on, the ages of things. It's for everyone.
I don't know your top book. Can you tell me about it?
I Am Loved. Well, so a couple of mine actually, I think, have the same kind of vibe here. Oh goodness, where is the other one? We Dream Medicine Dreams too. I feel like they are ones that kind of tie me into what I want my kiddo to think about. It's like, we really looked at our children as a treasure and this like gift from the universe or creator. And I feel like these books kind of give our kids that back that maybe my parents' generation really didn't have the privilege of having, right? So We Dream Medicine Dreams and I Am Loved are two that I think are just helpful in, sometimes I feel alone. And there's that book, is it Sometimes I Feel Like a Fox? Do you know that one?
I do.
Yeah, it's just kind of some feeling books that give an identity to our kids that they are loved. And I think love sometimes is really, really hard for our families to talk about. And these books I
also think that love, can be misconstrued as like, sexual love or romantic love.
Yes,
right? Like,
it has to be,
Ida Downwind, elder I worked with at MPS, she'd always say, like, we need to normalize telling people that we love them.
Yes.
Because we can care for people in a way that is healthy and healing. And it doesn't have to be, leading to something else. It can be to care for someone for who they are. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. Like it's hard. Like even when people we know say, "Oh, I love you," you're like, and because it has sort of been programmed out of us.
Right. And that probably is a colonized concept or just an outside concept to native community and tribes that love was just shown. And so, these are two books that kind of create that imagination and that thread within families and reading. So they're really cute books. And this is written by foster parents. So that's something that's in our communities as well. And like two books.
You reminded me of a couple of books that I should have brought. One is The Moccasins by Earl Einerson. And that one is, I love that one.
Oh.
And then I Sang You Down from the Stars.
Oh, yeah.
Tasha Spillett's book. Mm-hmm. Right? Because, this idea of bringing
that's one that down. Was like a staple with when my son was born, for sure. Yeah.
So similarly, I brought Sweetest Kulu, and I don't know if you know this one. Spoiler, if you're having a baby, I'm probably going to give you this book.
I have yes, I have a few of those too.
It comes as a board book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to give this to you. So I love this one. This book, again, Canadian North. And why I love this book is, so this baby is born, and the book never says if it is a boy child or a girl child. Like it is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So I love that it could be either. It doesn't matter. And you can see like it could be either. What I love about this is the author has the parent introduce the baby to all of the animals that they will meet. And it's like this wonderful welcome to the Canadian North. And it just that connection to place, that connection to land, and how that we're not alone. That we're never alone. We're connected to everything. And I think especially in the Canadian North, like you cannot live in the Canadian North without relying on these animals for food, for warmth. So all of these things. And so just this beautiful story.
And creating relationships from the get-go. Like that's how we see the world, really.
Yeah. And it's just, it's so pretty. The pictures are beautiful. Like you can just see the animals like coming to greet the baby too. And I'm just like, it's so lovely. And it just gives me all the feels. And so.
Well, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Navajo laughing ceremonies.
So great.
Yeah.
Can you tell listeners about that?
Well, it's when we believe that your child doesn't choose to be in this world until they laugh. And whoever makes the baby laugh does a ceremony. And so it's just like they're accepting and choosing to be here. And they're spiritual beings. And then they are like, I don't know how to really phrase it, but when you laugh, laughter is such a big thing in our communities, and it's something that babies, don't do from, being born. It takes some time. And my sister pretty much made all three of our kids the grandkids, and so
which
my
sister?
Alicia, she has this special, and so she has to throw the ceremony for the kiddos.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the baby may develop traits of the person who makes them laugh, correct?
I haven't heard that, but I would believe it. And the two of them, my son and my sister, his auntie, they do. She was there when he first rolled over. And actually that memory just came up on Facebook today. 9 years ago today, he rolled over and she was there. And She had to send me the video. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, they have a special bond, and um, the two of them. But we were sitting there eating our lunch, and she reached over to the car seat, and he just thought it was the funniest thing. And so she tickled him, and he just laughed. And so it's a memory that we definitely always share. So I don't think I have any other like kind of baby um, books, but I would think that so this is a new one to my pile.
Oh yeah, brand spanking new.
Yes, it was just like a week or so ago. We went to a children's bookstore here in St. Paul. What is it called? Red Balloon.
Great bookstore.
Yes, I always spend way too much money there. But How the Birds Got Their Songs, and it's by Travis Zimmerman. It's and his cousin Sam did the illustrations, and so I went to his author talk a week or so ago, and really, really cute on how they were going back and forth about the illustrations. And I can't imagine working very closely with family sometimes, especially on something so personal as a book. But
well, I love Sam, but Sam needs a handler.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe Travis was able to do that.
I think they did a beautiful job. They really did. And it's in English and Ojibwe, which I like.
Love that.
And it's just a really how oh goodness, I'm forgetting the other bird that was in here. Eagle and the oh goodness. It's totally spacing me right now. It's like, but there was another bird, and they are trying to have the best song. And so it's really cute. And my son's name, Kane, means eagle in Menominee. And so we just had to go get this book. And and so the best song goes to the other bird in this book. But of course, my son said the eagle.
Well, let's be honest. All media steals the red-tailed hawk to make the screech for the bald eagle.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Folks realize that on every movie, it's not actually a bald eagle because they have like this little peep, 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 and they do not sound powerful and amazing, and they do not screech. Those are red-tailed hawks, and you're being fooled by a false narrative.
Fooled by the...
But Travis, if folks don't know, he works at the Mille Lacs Indian Museum and has for a number of years. Mm-hmm. And so he's, just a wonderful resource person up in Mille Lacs.
Yes.
And then Sam, I like to tease Sam. He's lovely. He works for the Minnesota Department of Education and is also an artist and has done a ton of stuff around the state. But I love that the two of them collaborated on something, right? Like,
yes.
I think that's like the epitome of Indian creation, right? Like, oh yeah, family members working together and creating something.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I really like the book. I feel like any book that has the native language alongside is amazing. And language revitalization needs all the support it can get. So, love the book.
You also have another one in there, Canadian one, Binned Again.
Yes. I was a little bit partial to this one. So Amik. So it's just really cute. I just love anything with water a lot of times. So I feel like this one is the cute book. I don't know. It was so hard for me to choose, and I can't remember. I was sitting surrounded by books this weekend, going over why would I want this and why would I want that, and trying to do my best to narrow it down to 10. But I think maybe this is again a personal kind of thing. My dad was just into would always talk to us about how hardworking beavers are, and sometimes they get a bad rap.
They always get a bad rap.
Yes, and so beavers were kind of a huge part on our Menominee reservation, and but beavers are really great animals, and so but this is Amik says Welcome is a cute book.
And I love that they, so for folks who don't know this book, beaver relatives come from all over and they meet but all of them are like dressed a little bit different. Some have headbands.
Yeah.
Some have like little ways to differentiate them based on what part of Turtle Island they're from. And so it's really cute. I think the illustrator did a fantastic job. And you can't just help but just love it because it's so cute.
Yeah. And I feel that it gives there are so many books that have, so I think you probably know this, what is that? The image that, is it UW Madison came up with, where it says that animals are more in picture books than actual humans. And then, oh my gosh, but natives are.
Yeah, we can link to that because it was looked at the percentage of Native authors and how many of those books are there. And yes, animals appear more than Native people.
Right. And so
books.
I was kind of going to steer clear of but I mean, I like how it ties in Native to maybe non-Native kids that maybe need that kind of segue to use like, how am I trying to say this? So a lot of kids have books that have animals in their literature. And so how do we use that as an image that they can understand, right? And bring Native ways and experiences into something that all kids can kind of conceptualize in their brains, if that makes sense.
I also think it's really hard because when you see animals, like, we're all related, and we see, there isn't that hierarchy of like, oh, humans are more important than animals. So we're constantly learning from animals with observation that has allowed us to survive for however, since time immemorial. So for me, it'd be great to have stories about Native people, but I'm also like, animal stories are really great because I learn from animals all the time.
Yes, especially beavers.
I brought Mushkiki Road.
Oh, good.
Minnesota Historical Society Press. And this one deals with the 7 grandfather teachings. And why I love this one is back when I worked at MPS, we would often talk about the 7 grandfather teachings. And when we had books that weren't from Minnesota, we could say, oh, well, what are the Dakota or the Ojibwe values? Where do we see love? Where do we see respect in this book? And so we could take any book that was maybe not Minnesota specific and be able to ask questions and look at it through a lens that made sense for the tribal peoples that are here. And so Mushkiki Road talks about the 7 grandfather teachings. And so people can learn a little bit about that, but also learn about some of the sacred medicines and some of the traditions of the folks here. Look at Sabe, right? And so lots of fun ways for people to better understand a little bit, in this case, Ojibwe grandfather teachings. But the values are quite similar. Like you said, I don't want to generalize, but there are similar values amongst Dakota and Ojibwe.
All right. So I think we both agree A Letter for Bob is a great book to have. And this, I think, really ties in to how Natives kind of operate in this contemporary world that we live in. And so in this one, this did happen in my family. I'm not sure if it happened in yours as well, but my mom made us name our cars, and we still do this today. She always, it really is because it is something that takes care of us and takes us around and so forth. So A Letter for Bob is a really cute book about naming their car Bob. And So I think with this one, I was like, oh, doesn't everybody name their cars? Like, isn't that, but it is kind of a native thing. And, but it's a cute book. And I feel like people should have this because it really gives insight to native folks and gives us some humanness to us. And so that's why I chose this one. Why did you?
Well, I love it because I've always put animate feelings on inanimate objects, right? And I don't know if you did that, but I'm always like, oh, I need to put this cart back because it will feel bad if I don't put it back where it belongs, right? Like I do things like that, and people are going to be like, what? My husband always jokes, he's like, you always buy the sad-looking fruit at the grocery store because you feel bad for it. And I do. And so I love this story also, well, for that reason, but also because it's just like you were saying, an everyday experience. It isn't like, look at this very native thing, doing this very native specific thing that other people don't do. Like you could see other families doing this from any culture. Right. And I love that. So a little spoiler, the family has used this car forever for road trips, and they are getting rid of Bob, and they need to say goodbye to Bob. And so it's just, I love it because it's like a simple joy, and how do you say goodbye to something that has served you so well. Right.
And been part of like so many memories. And so this is a cute book that should have, every library should have. And then you wanted to mention one of your...
Well, what's funny here is I'm looking, you actually did a pretty good job of going through your stack. I'm as hopeless in ever getting through my stack. So we will list these books. And the thing is, honestly, if people want to know books that I love, they can look at this because when I created this, I kept adding books in. And I kind of went over the top. There are 550 resources in here. I will say there are a few of yours that do not currently exist in here because they just came out after. So your the Taos seasonal books aren't in there, and the bird book isn't in there, and then I Am Loved is not in there. Those were new to me, and so darn, I'll have to buy some new books to add to the collection. But all the other ones are there. And so I'm hoping people will write in and ask us like, oh, what is a good book that you can recommend for this topic or to meet this standard, or what are some ways that I could tackle this particular topic in my classroom, and maybe keep us from going off the rails a little bit with our 20 book pile that we're trying to get through. Like, we need a little bit of help here.
This is an impossible, I think, goal for us to narrow down. But yeah, also for parents, if you have any questions on how to help support your kiddos, let us know. We will definitely come up with our recommendations. If not, check out your resource on the website.
You bet. Well, I always get to learn a little bit more about you every time we do this. And maybe you and I just need to hang out with all of our favorite books, because I got all these stories about you, and it was so nice to get like a deeper look into how you're raising Kenai and how you were raised. And apparently this hot guy you used to date from South Pueblo. So again, I'm sorry, significant other. I'm making it awkward. So
I'm always happy to share stories about stories. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Well, until next time. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Books Are Good Medicine. Subscribe to our channel on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also visit our website, booksaregoodmedicine.com, to find episodes and resources, or to send us a comment. This podcast is sponsored by the Shakopee, Metawakan, Sioux community and produced by Goff Public. Our theme song is Stomp Dance by Blue Dog. The opinions expressed on the Books Are Good Medicine podcast by its co-hosts and guests are their own in their personal capacities and do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization with whom they are affiliated or with the podcast sponsor.